Yeah. Thanks for me. That's it.
Nice to see you. Do the Japanese thing here.
Oh, you're gonna do that? Oh, you want me to get my
And then you have to bow 3 times to the Meiji
Santai.
God and read it.
Hello, world. Today, we're spending time with the Japanese politician that looks like former US President Bill Clinton. I know you're all clicking on this video because he's a white guy. And Jon Heese? He's okay with that. He's even played Clinton in movies. And to answer that burning question people may have, yes, he is Japanese. He was born and raised in Canada, but naturalized and became Japanese back in 2007. So how in the world did he end up as a Japanese politician?
I really like traveling, and I wanted to go somewhere to teach English. So after graduating, I looked at a bunch of different countries and decided on Japan. And I came here on a 5-year plan, and 33 years later, I'm still here. I taught English, and after 6 years, I realized that I wasn't learning Japanese because I was speaking English all day. And so I thought, well, what can I do? The foreign bars were becoming a thing, like in Tokyo, for example. And it's like, we have a lot of foreigners in Tsukuba. So I thought, yeah, I'll open up a bar. And I did that for 7 years. In 2002, they changed the law about drunk driving. When I opened up my bar in 97 was the first one. If you didn't have a parking lot, you didn't have a bar. Everybody drove drunk. It was just the way things were. And so I started going around to other establishments and talking to the owners and just saying, hey, like this happened in Canada 20 years ago.
What John's talking about is the Canadian Club Designated Driver Program. The Canadian government wanted one person in a group to be a non-drinker called a designated driver. As such, they would get a badge and often free soft drinks. This was the solution to try and make sure people didn't drive home drunk, while also keeping businesses running. These days, there's Uber or Lyft, but at the time, it was quite forward-thinking.
From the day they implemented this drunk driving ban to 1 year later, lost 70% of sales. Show me a business that can survive a 70% drop in sales. I remember complaining a lot. By then, all my drinking buddies was like, oh, rolling their eyes every time I started getting on about how police were. And eventually I said, yeah, you know, if I had half a brain, I'd just get into city office myself. And one of my friends said, whoa, yeah, you do have half a brain. Why don't you run? And the first time, people who knew, they said, yeah, you're either going to get 300 votes or you're going to get 3,000. And I got 4,000. So that's how I got into politics.
So Jon was first elected as a city council member in 2008. He's the third naturalized citizen from Europe or the United States to become a Japanese legislator. Or in other words, the third white dude to become a politician in Japan, the other two being Marute Tsurunen and Anthony Bianchi. There have been a lot of naturalized politicians, including Renho, Yogi, Arafia, and Shinkun. So, if you were to naturalize and become Japanese, how would you go about getting elected?
Yeah, if you're going to be a foreigner and you're going to run for office, then you really have to be able to read a significant amount of kanji. With Google Translate, it's gotten a lot easier. So when I first got elected, there was no Google Translate. So I was trying to read on the fly, and my Japanese sucked. You know, still pretty bad, don't get me wrong. But it was really bad. And so the end result was that I struggled a lot. But that won't happen as much these days. But still, you gotta know your Japanese.
So while you don't technically need to know Japanese, it obviously makes sense that you be able to communicate in the language if you want to be successful. But what you absolutely do need is to be at least 25 years old, live in the area you want to represent, and fill out the official forms from City Hall. You also need to deposit 300,000 yen, which is refunded if you receive at least 10% of the votes that the last place candidate got. In Tsukuba, that amounted to about 1,800 votes, so you'd need at least 180 votes to get your deposit back. But as Jon mentioned earlier, during his first campaign, he got an incredible 4,000 votes. Which made me wonder, how did someone with no political experience or lineage even win?
So what I had to do is look like Bill Clinton. And that seemed to work pretty well. People are attracted to novelty. And I am a novelty, a unicorn. I would say that a lot of my voters are young, so they have been taught from elementary school, kokusai kouryu, internationalism. And to them, it doesn't mean anything. What does this mean? They're kids. And then suddenly they turn 18 and they can vote, and it's like, oh, maybe that's what it means. And it's like, yeah, we'll vote for that guy. Wouldn't that be funny if he won, the first time? And the times after that, yeah, they kind of like having me around. I'm their pet, I guess you could say,
If you've been in Japan during an election period, you've probably heard these loud election trucks usually parked in front of stations. You may have also noticed various posters of people in suits, or samurai outfits, throughout the city. These candidates, according to Japanese law, cannot advertise on TV or radio. So public events, speaking on top of trucks, and plastering their faces all over the city is pretty much all they're legally allowed to do. If you happen to already be well known or stand out like Jon does, it's a big plus.
Like a lot of these politicians will have 200, 300, 400 supporters, and they get together and they have the daruma, the face where they paint in the eye or whatever, and everyone's like cheering, and I don't have any of that. This is my office. This is my group. My support group is in the office over there. Right? But it doesn't seem to matter. So I don't spend any money on my elections anymore. The very first time I spent about $400,000, so $3,500 US. The second election I spent about $1,500 US. My third election I spent $50 US. And fourth election, 50 as well. And then to go to the Ibaraki level, I spent about $5,000. So it's not a money thing.
Jon lives in Ibaraki Prefecture, where it's possible that you could be in Tokyo within an hour if you catch the Tsukuba Express. Tsukuba City, where he lives, is home to a lot of science and research institutions, including JAXA, Japan's Aerospace Exploration Agency. So Jon served his first term as a Tsukuba City Assemblyman in 2008. After a few terms at the city level, he campaigned for an Ibaraki Prefecture Council seat in 2014, which he lost. And after taking a break, in 2016 he once again served Tsukuba City as an assemblyman until 2022, when he ran again for a prefectural council and won. But something to note is that Jon runs as an independent, which is kind of rare in Japan. He won without any party support, which, according to him, wasn't a big deal, but I still think it has an influence in the political world.
I'm independent. Yeah.
Okay.
So I could have joined a party, but I don't see any reason to. What would they do for me? They're not going to give me money, help me get elected. No, that's not the way things work. I did see sort of a point in the last election in that the parties will publish newspapers and articles, and I did not appear anywhere. Komeito put out a publication, and they literally said, and don't bother voting for Jon because he doesn't stand a chance. Which I found disturbing, In any case, that would be the only reason to join a party, is that they would provide a little bit of political oomph in the media sphere. But you pay for it, in that you are required to vote a certain way, for example.
But despite being a maverick of sorts, Jon doesn't exactly rock the boat. Sure, he stands out, but his policies aren't particularly controversial in Japan.
I haven't really screwed anything up too badly. Very pro-environmental, the kids really like that. I am relatively fiscally conservative, so the old people like that.
While filming Jon for the day, we stopped by City Hall, where he introduced us to his longtime friend and colleague, Kokubo-san.
This is my good friend, Mr. Kokubo. He and I are good drinking buddies. ですね。
どういう意味？そうね。そうです。はい。どうぞ。
いつも楽しいんです。もうこのバカが8年前、ジョンがもう県議に出ていいんじゃないって言われましたでしょ。それ落選だってもうこいつのせい信じられないもん。
いつも俺のせいって言う。直球だから直球で返さないとダメなんですよ。伝わらないんですよね。
One thing I wanted to know was how Jon's life changed once he became a politician. Did people treat him differently?
I mean, people already treated me quite differently when I became a bar owner. Like then I was like a shacho, kind of, When I got elected, then people oh, wow, now he's a politician, and it opened up a lot of doors, and I really appreciate that. But when I became the Ken, level, the prefecture level. Oh my God, the level of obsequiousness.
Normally, I translate Japanese to English, but for this pricey word, obsequiousness, I'll do the English to English translation. Obsequiousness means being excessively eager to please or obey.
I'm still the same dumbass, more experienced, but, I don't see myself as anybody special. I'm just a guy.
Now it's time to shamelessly promote the traditional Japanese hand-dyed towels that we made, which are sitting in these boxes right here. These towels were designed by a real artist, which was sent over to an artisan to carve out the pattern, which was then sent to the dyeing factory to be dyed on both sides with high-quality cotton. You can tell it's different from lower quality stuff when you touch it, but not only that, when you flip it around, you can see it's equally as vibrant due to the double dyeing process. You could pin it to the wall like I have, or you can use these 100% Japanese cypress hangers, or you can be like me and actually use it as a hand towel. Our first design included scenes from Life Run From videos over the years. Look, there's Ako drinking, and there's Aiko eating natto. And our second design, this is popular Japanese foods. Ako's on standby, ready to ship your order. Go to shop.liferunfrom.com to get yours today. Yay!
Yay!
Okay, back to the video. Now that we know Jon's story, what is his role in the Ibaraki prefectural government?
I represent the people at the administration, to the administration. And so the administration is the governor and his civil service.
So, there are two main powers in the prefectural government. The assembly, or Gikai, which is made up of 62 prefectural councillors, like Jon. And the executive branch, or Gyosei Kikan, comprised of various departments or bureaus and civil servants, all led by the governor.
So we can make laws, but generally we are in oversight, looking at what laws have been proposed by the governor and his minions, and we say yes, yay or nay, up, down. Generally, they don't want to bring a law in which is not going to pass. That's embarrassing. That makes the news. So they will talk to us first.
So this is an important step in the lawmaking process. But before these bills are presented to the assemblymen, where do the ideas even come from? Jon explained how bills grow from the ground up.
So, for example, daycare is a big one. Well, there is like a group within the administration that deals with daycare. And so they will listen to the opinions and then they will formulate a plan how to deal with a given situation. And this will bubble up through the administration. You have to have the funding for it. The group which looks after daycare, they only have a set amount of money. If they're going to support this particular idea versus that particular idea, they have to get the money from somewhere. So even though they have the idea, they have the need, the people have told them, right? They still have to find the money somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it often means by shutting something else down or taking a slice from here, there, and everywhere. Anyway, they'll write the law and it will come to us and we will vote yes or no, right? So we can do the same thing as councillors. We can propose something. But the administration is going to do it. The civil service is going to do it. They're the ones who are going to implement it. And so, they'll say, okay, we accept that this new regulation is on the books. And what's the timeline? Oh, well, that's a really, we want it in the paper. It has to be done by December 31st, such and such a year. So let's say 2 years from now, because everything works so slow, right? And they come back and, we couldn't do it in that time. And so they foot drag. Or they don't foot drag. They're the ones who are going to do it.
Jon's been trying to get two ideas off the ground. One is to make convenience stores in Ibaraki hide their cigarettes, which are normally seen behind the register. And the other is to build a bus bay at a busy 4-lane road in Tsukuba City. Jon drove me to the bus bay in question to show me what the problem is and how he proposes to help fix it.
Here comes 2 buses even. So they're going to stop. They're going to stop over there. Oh no, it's a private bus. So now he's stopping. I don't know what this guy sees. Already the bus. You see the bus is getting into the other lane. Everybody's going to try and get into the other lane now, right? But there's too much traffic. And so all of these cars are cursing that they didn't think that they needed to get into the other lane. But you can see over here, like people who are watching ahead, they're already moving if they can. There are three different kinds of ownership. That is to say, the country, the prefecture, and the city own roads. The prefecture owns all of these 4 lanes.
They're going to have to discuss the finances. So in fact, when I asked about this in my last question period, there had never been a protocol for bus bays being installed after a road was built. So this is something that, as far as Ibaraki is concerned, they built the roads 40 years ago, and they had no clue that this was going to be a problem 40 years later. So the initial stand of the prefecture is, oh yeah, we'd gladly have the city pay for everything, right? And of course, the city is going to be like, well, hang on here. You're the guys who are in charge of the 4-lane roads, so why should we pay? You should pay. And somewhere in the middle will be the compromise.
So in order to propose these ideas to his colleagues, Jon first writes out the bill in English. His wife will then translate it into Japanese, and from there, he'll start approaching other council members and get a general sense of, will this or won't this pass? Like with his friend Kokubo-san, who we met earlier.
あそこ要はほら県道じゃない。
そう県道だよ。
県道だから。
そうだよ。
だからやっぱりそれは県で整備してもらいたいよね。
ですよね。
And while we were at City Hall, Jon showed us the Assembly Hall, where the mayor will propose a bill to the assemblymen and any citizens who want to attend.
This is where I used to cause trouble. So my seat was second row on the far left. So we have sessions every 3 months.
So while you may think politicians spend all their time in city halls like this, arguing against each other, it's at the max 3 weeks out of every 3 months that they'd be here. The footage from his home is a lot more representative of what he ends up doing. He also has to get out and attend meetings and events, like the 13 times he traveled up to Mito City, the capital of Ibaraki, in the month we filmed him.
I am invited to a lot of different ribbon cuttings or road building budget meetings, for example. And I don't know that I contribute anything, but I'm there, like I'm providing oversight is what's going on, is that they're making sure that I know what's going on.
After a day of shooting, Jon himself prepared a scrumptious roast chicken, as if it were Christmas. And as a priceless appetizer, he showed us some direct-to-DVD film covers that he was credited in. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace. And I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say, what's life like as a politician where you're from? Can you say your catchphrase?
I used to do tsukuba.